Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in-depth into my week number 9 tight end start or sit decisions. Inside today's video, I'll be going in-depth into every single matchup of the week from Thursday Night Football all the way until Monday Night Football, and I'll be telling you guys whether I believe you should start or sit the tight ends in all of those games. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so. It's on the screen below me. There's also a cool graphic that's going to go onto the screen at NotoriousFNTSY. And if you have any questions about week 9, please ask down below in the comment section or in our brand new Discord, which is linked in the video description as well as in the pinned comment. We're going to talk about the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings, later. So without further ado, let's get in to today's video. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans utilize multiple tight ends. They use O.J. Howard as well as Brevin Jordan, and neither of them are really the true number one tight end on that team. This team really does not have all that great of a passing attack, as if I'm being honest with you guys, Davis Mills has definitely declined from his play of last season. The Texans are about to get absolutely fucking steamrolled by the Philadelphia Eagles. Brevin Jordan stands no chance in this matchup up against one of the best, if not the best, defenses in the National Football League. Dallas Goedert is a must-start tight end every single week. Now, obviously, with studs like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith around you, as well as the fact that Jalen Hurts can just rush in a touchdown if they are in the red zone at any point in the game, it does suck for Dallas Goedert, but at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts does still throw Dallas Goedert the ball a bunch every single game, and in a game up against the Texans where it might be a blowout, don't be surprised if Dallas Goedert scores at least one touchdown in this spot. Next up, we begin with the Sunday slate with the LA Chargers at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Kyle Pitts has been the definition of inconsistency all season long, and honestly, he might actually be consistent because he's been consistent at fucking your team directly in the ass. Because this season, Kyle Pitts has not been that guy. Now, last week, he looked good. So my hope and my prayer to the football gods above is that the Atlanta Falcons stop being pussies in the second half, because typically the Atlanta Falcons are getting the dog shit beat out of them. They are getting absolutely railed out, and then what they do is instead of giving the ball to Marcus Mariota and, throwing the ball, trying to come back, they just run the ball out in the second half. It makes no sense. It's like they weren't even trying to win games, but miraculously, last week up against the Carolina Panthers, Arthur Smith finally figured something out in his brain. The fucking, back in the day, I don't know what this is even from, like cartoons, where the monkey would be banging the cymbal thing in its head. What are those called in band? Like the two things you smack together is just going off in his brain, and magically, miraculously, he just figured out that, holy shit, if we let Marcus Mariota throw the ball in the second half, we're going to have a better time in the game. And Kyle Pitts had a good game, so I'm praying to the fantasy football lords above that Kyle Pitts strikes again and has a great game. Gerald Everett is a must-start tight end at this point in the season as well. He is incredibly inconsistent as well, but at the end of the day, they don't have Mike Williams. Keenan Allen is banged up, and Justin Herbert, the pervert, has to throw the ball to someone, and that someone might be Mr. Everett up against a garbage-ass Atlanta Falcons defense. Next up, we move to the Miami Dolphins at the Chicago Bears. Now, going into the season, I was someone who was completely off of my main man, Mike Licky, on my Gesicki on Mike Gesicki, because the fact was that going into the season, it was very evident that Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Dolphins, wanted a tight end that could block. He wanted a run-blocking tight end so that the running backs could jam the ball down the defense's throat. And they quickly realized, and by quickly, I mean like 5 weeks into the season, that, hey, maybe we should just let Gesicki be a receiver. And once they did that, Gesicki actually started doing really well in fantasy football. So this week they get the Bears, an incredibly easy matchup, but I will put a slight caution out there that this game is expected to be quite windy. Now, I'm not a fucking meteorologist, and the game's on Sunday, so maybe things will change. But if this is a windy game, I would be worried about all of these Dolphins pass catchers as well as the Bears pass catchers. But I was already incredibly worried about the Bears pass catchers, so that's not really going to change my opinion too much. Cole Kmet is going to be a sit for me. Next up, we move to the Carolina Panthers at the Cincinnati Bengals. In this one, we're to be rolling out Hayden Hurst. Without Jamar Chase, the Cincinnati Bengals need another player to catch the ball. Now, last week they laid a dud up against the Cleveland Browns. Ultimately, at the end of the game in garbage time, they kind of crawl out and score a couple of points. But in reality, Joe Burrow had an awful performance. But without Jamar Chase, I feel a little bit more confident in Hayden Hurst. I was already pretty confident in Hayden Hurst game in and game out. There are so many bad tight ends in fantasy football that when you find one that could be seeing 5-6 potential targets in a game, you have to start him. And this week he's going up against the Panthers defense, so I like Hayden Hurst in this spot. Tommy, make that ass tremble, has an excellent nickname, but at the end of the day, up against the Panthers, or up against the Bengals, because he's on the Panthers, up against the Bengals defense, I don't really trust him, and I've never trusted him. He could be going up against 11 versions of myself, and I probably still wouldn't start Tommy Tremble. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. The Lions end up trading Mr. TJ Hawkinson to the Minnesota Vikings. So now they have a couple of tight ends in rotation. Right now, it would appear that James Mitchell is the guy, but by Sunday, someone else could be the guy, right? I'm not 100% sure on that. With that said, I don't really feel comfortable playing any of these Detroit Lions tight ends. For the Green Bay Packers last week, Robert Tonyan 100% scored a touchdown, but they ended up calling it back because it was offensive pass interference. Some of these rules make absolutely no sense. Robert Tonyan and the corner were both hand fighting. They're hand checking each other. The guy falls over. Tonyan scores a wide open touchdown. They throw the fucking yellow laundry on the field. It makes no sense. Robert Tonyan has been pretty decent this season. The Packers are in dire need of wide receiver weapons, and while Robert Tonyan technically isn't a wide receiver, he does fill that role for the team, and the Lions defense is straight ass. Next up, we move to the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. Evan Ingram has kind of morphed into a heavily utilized player in this Jacksonville Jaguars offense. Now, Trevor Lawrence has been not the best over the last couple of weeks, and another thing that hasn't been the best is that Jags defense. Early on in the year, it's like, oh shit, maybe it's back to being the Saxonville Jaguars. Maybe this Jaguars defense is back. The Jaguars are back under Doug Peterson. And then the defense has recently kind of fallen off the edge of the fucking earth, fallen off a wall like Humpty goddamn Dumpty. But Evan Ingram, at the end of the day, up against a putrid Raiders defense, I like him. Foster Moreau is also a start. He's kind of one of those bottom tier starts. But whenever Darren Waller is out, which he's out again this week, this guy's been a disaster, then Foster Moreau is going to at least see a couple of targets, and I don't expect the Raiders to be this bad again. I mean, last week, man, oh man, were the Raiders. That was just an awful game. I don't think I've ever seen something that bad because I had high hopes for the Raiders in that game. Next up, we move to the Indianapolis Colts at the New England Patriots, and I will keep this one incredibly short like Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. So Mo Alley Cox, Mo Money, Mo Cox, twice or three times every season, this man is going to pull his pants down and take a deuce directly on the chest of the defense. He's already done it once. He's going to do it again. Which week will it be where he scores like 20 plus points? I don't think it'll be this week up against the Patriots. Notoriously, Bill Belichick is amazing. Chef's kiss, magnifique at stopping young quarterbacks. Now, Tua makes him hold his jockstrap because Tua's undefeated against him. But Sam Ehlinger, basically a rookie. Don't really expect much out of Mo Alley Cox. Hunter Henry, his tight end time of being useful is done because the Zappinator, Bailey Zappi, is no longer starting. Bailey Zappi loved throwing the ball to Henry. Mac Jones doesn't love the tight end. Next up, we move to the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jumbo Jets. In this one, I'm going to be firing up Dawson Knox as well as Tyler Conklin, but I am definitely significantly more confident in Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox has hopped back on the saddle and kind of got back to his old ways from last year, which is just scoring touchdowns. The guy was a touchdown machine last season. To start off the year, he got off to a slow start, but recently he's been ripping off solid games. And the Jets are very bad at stopping tight ends. So I think Dawson Knox will have a solid showing in this matchup. I know the Jets defense is good. They're one of the best defenses in all of the NFL, but they are bad against the tight end, so I like Dawson Knox in this spot. Tyler Conklin had a fucking field day up against the New England Deflatriots last week. Zach Wilson does not look very good at all. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot in this game up against the Bills, so I think Tyler Conklin will get a lot of targets. Will he be able to score? Probably not, but wouldn't surprise me if he got like 9 or 10 targets in this game. Before we move on into the next game to discuss at the tight end position, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends, our sponsor over at DraftKings. You guys, all you got to do is sign up using the link in the video description or in the pinned comment down below. And if you bet $5+ on any sport, so it could be the NFL, NBA, the World Series, golf, NHL, if you bet a $5 pre-game money line bet on any sport, you'll receive $200 in free bets on DraftKings Sportsbook if your bet wins. So, it says if your bet wins, so your bet needs to win. So, in my opinion, I know you might want to bet on your favorite team. You like the Bills. You could bet on the Bills. I think the Bills are going to roll the Jets. But your best bet is to just bet on one of those humongous college football favorites. This week, Oregon is minus 20 zillion in that game, which is a 99.5% implied win probability. College football will always be the most appealing if you want to talk about quote-unquote guaranteed wins. So please make sure that you bet on the best college football odds of the week, which this week is Oregon. So you can guarantee the fact that you get those $200 in free bets. Make sure you guys check that out. Link in the video description. Again, you have to be a new user to DraftKings. Make sure you click on the link in the video description down below. Next up, we move to the Minnesota Vikings at the Washington Commanders. A Kirk Cousins revenge game up against the Commanders. Dan Schneider got to sell the team. Yikes, it's very funny. Now, I might just be a 12-year-old in my head. But, I saw the thing. It's like Bank of America. They're trying to sell the team. But it says BOFA. And I always find that to be funny because Bank of America's thing is BOFA. And both of these nuts are on your forehead. You get what I'm saying. Very funny. Hawkinson gets traded to the Minnesota Vikings. He's going to be used this week because Irv Smith is now on the IR for 8 to 10 weeks, done for the season. So they're going to have to use TJ Hawkinson. How much will they use him this week? Fuck if I know. If I have other options that I'm comfortable with, I'm probably starting them over TJ Hawkinson, but it really just depends on kind of what we're hearing up until Sunday. Like, we might hear that they're going to use TJ Hawkinson a lot, and that'll feel comfortable ranking him inside the top 10, but right now I'm a little bit squeamish on him. Logan Thomas is a sit. The Commanders don't really use a tight end all that much, and neither does Taylor Heineke. So I think Terry McLaurin, as well as Curtis Samuel, could have solid games here up against the Vikings defense, but I don't trust Logan Thomas or John Master Bates. Don't trust any of those guys. Next up, we move to the Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Both Noah Fant and Will Dissly kind of got kicked off the start list. They're almost starts. Geno Smith loves the tight end, but DK Metcalf somehow played last week despite the fact that he was injured and played really good. Lockett's healthy, so I don't really trust Fant or Dissly. I've talked a lot about it this week, how I think this matchup's going to be low scoring, but everything I see, all these sports books like DraftKings have this game as a higher scoring game. I hope that's the case because Zach Ertz can be an incredible tight end. DeAndre Hopkins returning does hurt some of the upside in the red zone for Zach Ertz, but at the end of the day, I still trust him as one of the top 5 tight ends in fantasy on the week. Next up, we got the LA Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Cooper Kupp's availability is certainly up in the air right now. The LA Rams are going up against the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers really haven't been all that great defensively or offensively. If Cooper Kupp misses this game, Tyler Higbee might see 20 fucking targets. That might sound crazy, but honestly, it might be the flat out truth. Tyler Higbee's a must-start tight end every week. He hasn't been scoring a crazy amount of touchdowns. I know the offensive line isn't the best in LA, but despite all of these woes happening in LA, Matthew Snapback still loves throwing the ball to Higbee. Cade Otton's one of those guys where he's just barely peeking over the fence like the guy in Home Improvement. I don't love Cade Otton. Tom Brady doesn't love tight ends unless it's Gronk or it's that criminal Aaron Hernandez, but at the end of the day, I still think Cade Otton ekes his way in there to become a start. Next up, we move to Sunday Night Football. Les Titans, the Tennessee Titans at the Kansas City Chiefs. Austin Hooper, more like Austin Pooper. Yeah, in reality, dude, Austin Hooper has not done much this season. Might be Malik Willis, might be Tannehill, doesn't matter though. You're not starting Hooper. Travis Kelce's a start. Are you surprised? The answer is no, you're not surprised. Travis Kelce has been fantastic all season long. He's the most reliable tight end in the NFL. He's must start every week. And final game here, we got Monday Night Football. The Baltimore Ravens the New Orleans Saints. Now, if Mark Andrews plays, even if he's on some type of lower snap count, I'm still playing him because while I advised you guys not to start him last week, and technically that was the right move because he got banged up, if he's out there on a fucking peg leg like he's a pirate, he's going to get so many targets because we saw that early in the game last week. So you basically kind of just are forced to roll with him. If Marky Mark Andrews plays, you're playing him. If he doesn't play, then Isaiah Likely goes from a sit to Isaiah Likely being a start. Get it? Likely to be a start? That didn't really... The punchline didn't hit as hard as I thought it would. Shout out to Will Smith. Nice hitter. Taysom Hill, Juwan Johnson, both starts. Taysom Hill's a start every week. His ceiling is super high. He could score 35-point games. He might also score a 3-point game. But with Andy Dalton under center, I'm more comfortable playing Taysom. Dalton's the starter. I go with Taysom. Juwan Johnson, he's going to get his targets every week. He's probably not going to be the best. But again, there's so many fucking teams on bye. Someone's got to be a start. So Juwan Johnson makes it into that category. And the Ravens defense hasn't been the best all year long. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. I love you guys all so much. Make sure you check out that DraftKings $5 pre-game moneyline bet on any sport and you receive $200 in free bets if that team wins. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I love you guys all. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, goodbye.